In 2015, March 8th, under President Barack Obama, there were sanctions under Venezuela where it was under sanctioned over things like corruption, human trafficking, and drugs. In one way or the other, we should try to understand for the last 10 years and 10 months, Venezuela has been under sanctions, and these sanctions are still in place. As I speak right now, who has been the current president, President NICOLAS Maduro. We should try to understand that NICOLAS Maduro has been the president of Venezuela. And this is a guy who has been at war with the U.S. Well, I would say the worst relationship with the U.S. This country was sanctioned over maybe using SWIFT and other kind of accessories to engage in trade. In one or the other, you should try to understand, before we go any further, to understand what happens to the oil prices with all this. You should also try to understand that. In one or the other, we should try to understand, before we go any further, there have been lives lost in this kind of a situation, because we're trying to understand finance, but we should also have our morals and sense of human one or the other. Before we proceed, we should try to understand that there have been lives lost in this attack. However, it was kind of a corporate attack, maybe we would say. I'm not gonna issue it like it was the right thing to do or wrong thing to do. Regardless, on this channel we speak finance most of the time. You're gonna try to understand what happens to the oil prices if the US engages itself in the oil drilling through Venezuela, and what happens to China, because China had almost dominated 80% of the Venezuela oil. Oil prices today are kind of skyrocketed. Well, what does this mean if the US engages into the oil drilling through Venezuela? In the first place, you try to understand Venezuela is sitting for around approximately 303 billion barrels of oil. Actually, the biggest or the largest of all time. We should also try to understand that what does this mean for China? Stick on this video to understand what's taking place or what's really happening in the first place. We should also try to understand that how does this influence the OPEC? Does this give the US a big arm to be influencing itself into the geopolitics in oil in one or the other? Does this influence? Because we should try to understand, as of right now, Venezuela has been able to be producing 1 million barrels every day. However, with the influence of the US coming in, that's likely to be coming in. It's likely to be bringing back the old style of either bringing out almost 3.5 million barrels of oil, which is more than the US uses actually on a daily basis, because the US uses almost 2.5 from right million barrels on a daily basis. This could recapture prices or retouch on the prices of oil, because one of the biggest consumers of oil is the US. We should try to understand that. One of the main reasons why we're speaking of the Venezuela and why Venezuela was attacked, the US claims, or Donald Trump claims, that he quotes his oil, or his oil companies were kicked out. Let's say companies like Exxon, Chevron were kicked out one or the other, and he's looking forward to see these companies getting back into Venezuela so that he can organize and develop the country. Which is kind of, I wouldn't say that they introduce themselves in the best way. It's controversial one or the other. It's not something we would say like, it's clean. It's not really that clean, but hey, this is what we are looking at. If you're looking at this channel, you're looking at an investment channel, you're looking at a financial channel and understanding the financial weather. We should try to understand what comes next after this. We should try to understand that if they was, bring back his oil companies and start drilling oil to Venezuela, at certain percentage, it could benefit Venezuela. Actually, we would say yes. But I feel like it's going to benefit more the US companies and the US itself, because it will be able to fight things like inflation. It will be able to adjust oil prices. It will be able, because oil is one of the major reasons why inflation has been always high on one or the other. Hopefully, taking advantage of Venezuela in one or the other, could hope to see the US maybe try its level best to lower its debt, which is also kind of something they are always underlooking one or the other. We should also try to understand that seeing Venezuela doing such a criteria means one or two things. It means that Venezuela now stands in the hands of the US, or in the hands of Trump. It's also, we saw Trump warning the successor of NICOLAS Maduro that he should also be doing everything under the terms of the US, which is also kind of I think that shows that, well, Venezuela could be kind of colonized one or the other, because he moves on the tiptoes of Trump. And he also continued by saying, I don't want to call it threatening, because it may not be actually threatening. He said if they can use further attacks if anyone kind of comes out to be acting like he is stopping them, one or the other. If you ask me what's the future of Venezuela, I would say it's not in bad hands, and I wouldn't say it's in the best hands, one or the other. You should try to understand that we are speaking on a kind of a controversial topic, one or the other. It's a topic that we should try to understand that it leaves many in a bazaar mood. It leaves many to feel like they are kind of unsafe. See, we should try to understand the US has been losing what I'll be calling foreign hegemony, one or the other. It has been losing what they call support in one way or the other. It has been losing that kind of control. I'm not saying it's the best way how to implement this. They tried their level best to do it professional, maybe taking out Nicolas Maduro, maybe for whatever, to case him up to be seen the court and whatever cases the judges having through the US. But we are speaking of oil prices one or the other, because this is a kind of, I repeat, this is kind of a controversial topic to speak about. But what happens to oil prices? Well, that's going to be seen today, and how oil markets are going to be reacting. We are hoping to see maybe American companies like Exxon, Chevron, maybe getting back into creating their pipelines back to the US, creating their level base to start breeding oil. Hopefully they could do a better way. They could do a better Venezuela in one or the other. That's my hopes in one or the other. Regardless how they came in, I couldn't say that I'm happy how they popped into another man's land. The caption of the president himself, it's not something like he's gonna come up and say like, hey, it's something clear. However, that's all we can say for right now. And what does this mean like for countries like China? China feels like it's going to be kicked out, because China has been buying almost 80% of the oil from Venezuela. It has been buying most oil from Venezuela and one or the other. It has been doing its level best to be taking that. The US sanctioned Venezuela, and the biggest buyer of Venezuela oil has been China. In one or the other, should also try to understand that China has been implementing that digital yuan, meaning they have been selling oil in one or the other. I'm not sure about this, but have to confirm it. They've been actually moving forward to using the digital yuan other than using the dollars. That means they have been jumping out from using the dollar, because the dollars have been facing one or the other what's known as de-dollarization. De-dollarization has been taking a big number of factors. It has been like a biggest factor. What does this mean for countries in the OPEC? Well, they're going to be highly finding a way of repricing prices of oil, finding their level best to analyze, because they're going to have competitive prices from the US, because we're going to say right now the US controls the oil in Venezuela. In one or the other, if you see also the new dominated, the appointed president of Venezuela, she seems to be going to be moving on the tiptoes of the Trump administration. That means do as I say, or I chop you out. This is not just a war between Venezuela and the US. Actually, this is a war between China and the US. This is another cold war, one or the other. This is another way to show dominance, because China has been dominating the South American one or the other. It has been doing its level best to be justifying one way or the other. Like, it has been doing trades with countries that actually US sanctioned, and the US has been losing this kind of dominance one or the other. So I feel like this is a buyback or a take back one or the other, because you have to understand this is, I have to repeat again, this is kind of the controversial topic to speak about, but many countries are kind of chess cards to be played between two big powers, between China and the US, because any country that you have seen being sanctioned by the US, it has better ties with China. Using the digital yuan, they have been able to be trading. We have been seeing how the BRICS have been evolving. They have been the way how they've been raised. However, with this coming of the US, with this move made by the US, or the chess move in one or the other, expecting things to be heating up in one or the other, because at the end of the day, whenever trade was injected into the economy in one or the other, it ends to bigger influencing wars in one way. Now it comes to where everyone starts pulling the chess cards to show that I have a bigger influence. I have a best way of doing up better things. This belongs to me. This belongs to me. That's what's happening right now. That's something that we should try to understand, that this indicates one or two things. That expect more bigger moves, expect more market volatility, expect bigger things to be happening. Okay. However, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.